Welcome to the Prophecy Club. An interesting topic today. Prophecies hint that there's going to be an overhead EMP that'll knock out our electrical grid. Okay. So we've all heard about this Chinese spy balloon over America. I heard about it on Fox News this morning. I didn't pay attention. I thought, that's nothing. And then somebody has started sending me more of your emails. Thank you very much for sending me emails. You point out a lot of things to me. And several of the emails begin to remind me of some prophecies that said this could very well be what takes out our electrical grid. I went, So I got to looking, and I am shocked at what I found. You know, sometimes we look at something from one direction. All right, let me give an example. If you've ever played chess, you look at that board and it begins to just, at least with me, it begins to just kind of blur. But if you'll stand up and walk away and look at it from another direction, walk to the other side of the board, look at it from another direction, sometimes it even looks like someone has moved some pieces because you see it differently. Well, I started looking through the prophecies, some of the newspaper headlines, and all of a sudden I saw, okay, this could very well happen right now, and it could be very well some of the things that prophecy have been talking about, we've been reading about for a long time, but just didn't ever think it could be a Chinese spy balloon with an EMP nuclear device on it that could set up, shut off, our electricity. Okay, so let's go and look at them. All right, first of all, this is something I pulled off the internet. The headline says, Large Chinese Reconnaissance Balloon spotted over the U.S., officials say. Now, here's the part I did not know. The vessel is described as the size of 3 school buses. I thought, oh, that's big. Then when I actually looked at the picture, what do you see across that picture? That would be solar panels. Okay, so if it has solar panels, it could also have some other means of moving it around. In other words, it might not be just drifting with the wind. It might be up there, plan to stay up there until we either shoot it down or they decide to move it. Now, what's the danger in us possibly shooting down? Well, maybe the Chinese are ready to go to war with America for whatever reason, of which they had several. And maybe if they saw a missile or a rocket or a plane or whatever they think that the Americans might be shooting at it to knock it down, maybe they just go ahead and explode it. And maybe, at least the prophecies say, maybe just maybe, there really is a nuclear device on board. And maybe it is set, see, there's different kinds, okay? Some of them make a bigger boom. Some of them make a dirty bomb. And then some of them are designed to put out more electromagnetical pulse or something that will fry computer chips. So maybe we can't rule out the possibility that what's on this thing could take out our electrical grid. Now, let's go on. As you recall, 3 or 4 months I read this one ago. It says, dry runs. Balloons called top delivery platform for nuclear EMP attack. This is actually from today. Washington Examiner. High-altitude balloons, like the one China has floated over the mountain state military bases this week, are considered a key delivery platform for secret nuclear strikes on America's electrical grid, according to intelligence officials. It goes on to say spy balloons used by Japan to drop bombs during World War II are now far more sophisticated and can fly up to 200,000 feet, evade detection, and here it is, carry a small nuclear bomb that, if exploded in the atmosphere, would shut down. Are you listening? Are you believing this? Would shut down the grid and wipe out electronics in a mini state-wide area. That's just what we've been talking about the last few weeks. Here it is. Or here it is. Or is it really here? The threat of balloon launched was warned about in a congressional EMP commission and inside the military several years ago. In a 2015 report for the American Leadership and Policy Foundation, Air Force Major David Stuckenberg, one of the nation's leading EMP experts, warned about the threat of balloons carrying electromagnetic pulse attack bombs. I'm going to read that again. Warned about the threat of balloons carrying electromagnetic pulse attack bombs posed to national security. There is nothing to prevent several hundred pounds of weapons material from being delivered to altitude, he added. The Eastern Grid generates, now this is another article I pulled from, the Eastern Grid generated 75% of the U.S. electricity and supports most of the population. Virtually any nuke detonated anywhere over the Eastern Grid will collapse the entire Eastern Grid, not just the area within the EMP field, because of cascading failures that will ripple outward. In other words, kind of like a stack of dominoes. Push over the first domino, all of a sudden click, 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 click. In other words, you knock out a big enough grid or several of those grids, and then it pulls down the whole grid because they're all interlinked, okay? Don't forget this. I think it was 3 or 4 days ago. This was part of one of the newspaper headlines we read. This comes to us from John Paul Jackson. The headline said, "Cyber attack cripples grid, multiple collapses with restart efforts." Okay, could it be that this Chinese thing does explode? And could it be that the government doesn't really want to tell us that it was really the Chinese? And could it be that they just say, oh, it's just a cyber attack? Or maybe it is a cyber attack. I don't know. But the point is, the prophecy says multiple collapses and have difficulty getting going again. Then Terry Bennett comes along. We just read this one yesterday or day 4, just recently. The newspaper headline says, "Lights out, rolling electric outages expected to continue." Now, you know why I got solar for my house. I didn't get solar because I want to save on my electrical bill. I got solar because when everybody else's electricity, because the prophecies say our electrical grid is going to go down. Now, I don't know about you, but 2 years ago, I was living in the DFW area when I think scalar wave brought this massive cold storm in and it hit 25 degrees for 4 days, just like it did this past week. And the difference was they knocked out our electricity. Where I live, the electricity went off at about 4 o'clock in the morning. I remember specifically Leslie woke up and said, electricity just went off. And I thought, how'd you know that? I mean, how would he, at 4 o'clock in the morning, how would anybody know? She knows. She hears. She hears in the spirit. Anyway, electricity went off. And went off 30 minutes, on 30 minutes, off 30 minutes, on for about 24 hours. And lots of homes in the area had all kinds of damage as a result of that. So that's when I decided to start looking into solar. As a matter of fact, to tell you the rest of the story. So I started looking into solar. And of course, I got all these companies calling me and emailing me, yeah, we can do all this. And finally, this guy, Joe Ordia, calls. "Hey, I've been a fan of Prophecy Club for a long time. I've been following you for 10 years. I remember way back, you had this speaker on, and, we talked, and what do you do?" He wasn't even really calling to just get me a solar system. He said, "Well, I sell and install solar systems." I said, "Really?" I said, "Just so happens I have been thinking about getting one. Tell me more." So we became friends. We talked several times, did a few video conferences and talked, and he helped me to understand that not all ice creams are created equal. One ice cream is better than the other ice cream. Same thing with electrical grids. And I said, well, how do I know? Well, I trust him. So Joe Ordia with solarsurge.net. I didn't say com. Solarsurge.net. Have several people email me, I can't find anything at solarsurge.com. No, it's solarsurge.net. So he helped me get this solar system, and I love it. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you another little story. So when the electrical company came out to switch out my meters, because most of your meters are electricity in, not electricity out. We were switching it out. He said, "Man, this is a really nice system." He said, I'm switching out about 18 to 20 of these in just my area every day. And he says, this is the nicest system I've seen. I said, how's that? He said, well, most of them are just solar panels only. He said, but a few of them have solar panels and then they have a battery backup. Or they have solar panels and they have a generator backup. He said, this is the nicest one I've seen. He said, you have solar panels plus a battery backup and plus a generator backup. Now let me explain why I do that. Now, I've had it up and working for about a month, so I can't tell you a whole lot about exactly all the numbers and how it works. But I've learned a lot in the last month watching the little app on my cell phone. So if you have solar panels only and the grid goes down, and if you have a storm, if you have clouds, you don't have electricity, period. You can go days with no electricity. As a matter of fact, over the past week, with this cold front hit us, I probably would not have had electricity at all. Whereas, if you have batteries, then hopefully the batteries can carry you through a little bit. But even with batteries, unless you have a bunch of batteries, they still won't be able to store up enough to get you through more than a short storm. But one of these 3 or 4 day storms, 3 or 4 days of clouds, nah. Whereas, when you also have the generator backup, and I have a 22K Generac, and I tested it. I turned off the grid one night and woke up the next morning, and it had been running for about an hour. And it had powered all of my house, and it also recharged my batteries up to, I think it was 50% at the time. Now, you may be saying, well, all you need is a generator. Well, actually, no. I had another guy come out. He said, well, the problem is you got a 22K generator that's not big enough. I said, that's not big enough? He says, no, one of those air conditioners turn on, you're okay. But if you have 2 of your air conditioners turn on at the same time, you're not okay. It won't power them. Instead, it'll shut down your generator. There's where you need the batteries. But again, Joe Ordia, he's the guy, okay? He knows all about this. I trust him. Good guy. Go to solarsurge.net. Talk to Joe Ordia. He'll set you up with the right system. Yeah, you want to get a cheap system? Fine, he'll get you a cheap system. You want to get solar and just battery or solar and just generator? He can do that too. Or if you want to get what I suggest, solar, generator, and battery backup. Get all 3 of them. That's my suggestion. And I did that because, if you don't have electricity, you aren't making bread. Your house is not staying warm unless you have some kind of an alternative system. If you need electricity, we need, these days we need electricity for everything. If you haven't gone without electricity 30 minutes lately, you are missing a real treat. So anyway, that's why I got it, okay? Matter of fact, I didn't get it so I could talk about it. I got it for our personal house. When the electrical grid goes down, our neighbors come knocking on my door with blankets and pillows in hand saying, can we come in? And I'm going to say, yeah, and we also have some bread for you too. Okay, so let's go on. I've got several more. It's going to be a very, very important broadcast today. Lights out, rolling electric outages expected to continue. Then I thought it was the next, very important, a couple of them later, the night the lights went out in Georgia, Atlanta area hit hardest. The dark night of the soul plume cloud covers over half of the U.S. Now, when I read that 2 days ago, that makes sense to me. But I didn't understand plume cloud. Okay, the dark night of the soul means our electricity's off. The plume cloud covers over half of the U.S. What plume cloud? Oh, could it be from that Chinese spy satellite that actually sets off an EMP destructive EMP pulse weapon? And could it be that that's the plume cloud that covers over half the U.S.? See, I saw it differently. It's amazing how these prophecies, we can begin to see them differently. Let me go back and read those again. Lights out, rolling electric outages expected to continue. The night the lights went out in Georgia, Atlanta area hit hardest. The dark night of the soul. Plume cloud covers over half of the U.S. And that's the reason I say, this sounds like this is an EMP pulse from up in the sky. Then you remember Dana Coverstone. We've read this one several times, but see, I see it differently now. And I think you'll see it differently now, too. I saw a calendar. It was turned to the month of November and had shadows flickering all over it. Now, we thought that this was going to happen November 2020 because that's when he had it. Then we were watching again in 2021, watching again in 2022, and we're still watching in 2023. I saw a light in the sky. Could that be an EMP device on a Chinese balloon going off? I saw a light in the sky, very large, bright light, then darkness. Whoops. All of a sudden, we see it differently now, don't we? I began to make out through the dawn's haze and fog that many Americans were in emergency shelters. Why would that be? Because the electrical grid was knocked out. I began to make out through the dawn's haze that many Americans in the emergency shelters, there seemed to be snow on the ground. It was like dirty gray, almost like ash. Now, I thought that was Suitcase Nukes, and I still believe that's probably what's going on. But we cannot rule out the fact that there is some kind of a nuclear device on a Chinese spy balloon over America, and that's what causes the dirty gray stuff. There were people huddled together and shivering, and individuals lying on cot suitcases all over the place. Desperate looks on the faces of most everyone. There were encouragers of the crowds, that's us. All wearing cross, that's us. And they stood out emotionally from everyone else because they had hope. They had smiles on their faces. They were checking on people and trying to show patience and kindness. But they were at times met with anger and told to go away. But the encouragers just kept doing what they were doing. Despite the manifested upset of several in the shelters, some businesses were shuttered in big cities. Look, electricity goes out for 30 days. How many businesses can stay open with no electricity? I saw gas stations that looked like they'd just been walked away from. Why? Because of no electricity to pump the gasoline out of the ground, and there's no cars standing in line to buy the gasoline because a Chinese spy satellite and a balloon also happened to have an EMP nuclear device. I saw headlines that read, "Shock and awe in the U.S." That could fit. As well as one that read, UN steps in to help host nation. That could fit too. There were a large amount of quiet over the country, almost as if it had not awakened fully from a bad dream. I think a lot of people, hey, we're going to get raptured. We won't see any of this stuff. It's going to be like a dream for them to wake up, realize they've been taught error. The nation was fitful and suspicious and leery of what was coming next, very hesitant. That sounds about right, doesn't it? The white figure appeared and said, "Remain braced as this calm comes before the gathering storm." In other words, if an EMP in a Chinese balloon was set off, that's not the big one. The big one's when Russia takes us out in 1 day and 1 hour. Remain braced as this calm comes before the gathering storm that recovery will have a hard time finding. In other words, recovering from an EMP in a Chinese balloon will be hard to recover from. Which is why I'll send you to empshield.com. You use the promo code Prophecy, and essentially what you do is put one of these on your car and a different one you put on your house, so that if an EMP goes off in your area, your car still starts, your refrigerators, your computers in your house still work. Another article, attack on 9 substations. Remember, this is 3 or 4 months ago. Just 9 substations could take down the U.S. grid. In other words, the grid is this teetering, balanced thing that apparently is not too stable and could be easily knocked out. So it says there's 55,000 transmission substations in the United States, but an attack on just 9 or 10 of them could send the entire nation into darkness. I hope that gives you a lot of reassurance. And that's another one of the things I said, okay, I'm getting me solar. Now, I know all my neighbors probably think they see the solar going up my house. They probably, you're just wasting money. Yeah, well, electricity goes off, you won't think I wasted money. You remember this when we just read this, a week ago? While in prayer, I heard the words, surprise attack. Would an EMP going off from a Chinese balloon 200,000 feet above America, would you call that a surprise attack? You remember that Michael Boltea in one of his visions where Dmitri visited him, he said that the second attack came from like a surprise area, an area we never thought about. And I would say that right now, America in general is not thinking that a surprise balloon floating over America could knock out our electricity. The average person hadn't thought about that. I mean, I hadn't thought about it. While in prayer, I heard the word surprise attack. I continued to pray. Let's skip on. This attack will leave the nation in darkness. Specifically, he heard that. As I've said, this coming, darkness leads to gross darkness, which leads to absolute black. That says a total grid knockdown. Many people will perish in the darkness as they were not prepared. Wow. See, I saw it differently. A week ago when I read this, I didn't see it this way. Many of the people believe they will escape the coming darkness or the coming electrical grid out. But as I say, you will learn to walk in great faith, or you will perish. Many of my people will suffer great persecution. Many will perish, but I am with you. During the darkness, many will come to know me, and none will fear death. I say unto you, repent now, repent now, repent now, for in persecution you will not repent. Then, just one page from a Vicky Goforth Parnell dream back in March of 2022. I don't know if any of the parts of the word are as affected, because all I'm seeing in my nation, I do know this as an abnormal cold that happens sometime after this strikes upon our nation with the weapons of mass destruction, because it's so cold. And a lot of people are homeless and have not shelter, or if they do, here it is. Look at that. Look, look, look. No electricity or heat. I see many people dead, laying everywhere due to the harshness of the outside elements and forces. There's more. Now let's jump to another Coverstone dream, 2020. I saw long food lines. I saw people waiting what seemed an hour standing in line, not in cars, throughout the nation. To see, I thought that this was probably talking about suitcase nukes. And it might be talking about a nuke, but maybe it's not in a suitcase. Maybe it's a Chinese weather balloon. A Chinese balloon floating over America. It goes on. I saw ships and ports on the east and west coast that were just sitting idle. Wow, that's been happening now for the last year. I saw a headline that said Baltic Dry Index is dead. They said nothing was moving in trade around the world. Well, it's pretty much stopped. It's certainly not as robust as it used to be. Then I saw what looked like shopping malls had been converted into shelters and living quarters. In other words, the electrical grid is not down for a few hours. It's not down for a few days. It's not down for a few weeks. What if it's down for a few months? What if it's down for 9 months? Like after the Hurricane Katrina, people sheltered in football stadiums. Businesses, shopping malls, shuttered. People on cots, food outreaches, people misplaced. Something bad had happened again. I thought it was probably suitcase nukes. I didn't know about an EMP and a Chinese balloon floating over America. I continued to see shuttered properties, people in homes wearing coats, closed curtains. Why? Electricity's off. That has been a consistent vision. People inside their homes looking out. See, you remember I told you for 3 days I walked around the Lord, what do I need to do to get prepared? Show me what I need to do to get prepared. And I think he laid on my heart to get a off-grid. In other words, not just a solar panel here or there. And not even solar panels with batteries. I mean, that helps. But of course, the generator, to answer your question, is natural gas. Okay, Stan, what do you do when the natural gas runs out? Well, okay, if it's propane, what do you do when you can't get propane? Okay, so, I mean, you got to have something there, either natural gas or propane. Natural gas a whole lot cheaper and more convenient. Anyway, excuse me. When I look at people looking at their curtains, I see more of this dark gray snow-like stuff on the road. It wasn't pure white snow like the first fresh snowfall. That's why it made me think about suitcase nukes. Again, I never thought about a suitcase nuke up in a balloon floating over America. I saw headlines saying nationwide outages plague the Southwest. Another headline said Americans don't know who to blame for the darkness. Well, you know, we think that the balloon is from China, but up to this point, now maybe you've read an article on it, But I haven't seen exactly that they know for certain who put that balloon up there. Who knows? Maybe it was someone from the U.S. Some of the darkness stretched into Canada. That would make sense, that the electrical grid, which also goes up into Canada, who knows, maybe it goes down to Mexico too. Some of the darkness stretched into Canada. It was stretched forth into, as not everywhere. I saw America with lights flickering. In other words, they're trying to get the grid back on and off, okay? But it was like a whole country outlining the United States of America, including Alaska and Hawaii, okay? I wouldn't think Alaska and Hawaii would be part of the Suitcase Nukes, but maybe they are part of the electrical grid. I saw vultures with food hanging out of their mouth. They were heavy and fat and rotting food. We talked about this, okay? So the electrical grid goes down, and all of the refrigerators go to room temperature. All of the food rots. They throw it out, and there's your vultures eating it. Now, I'm going to skip because we're running out of time. Ran long, but I just want to say this. You might want to consider having some gold and silver coins. Yes, but Stan, you can't eat gold and silver. Well, that's true, but you probably can't take a loaf of bread in and get you some gas at a gas station either. In other words, there's a place for bread, and there's a place for having gold and silver. You know, a couple of silver coins might buy you a way to safety. You might not be able to have loaves enough of bread to buy your way to safety. I'm saying have both. I have both. I have bread, I have wheat, I have all the fixings to make bread. I mean, I have several years worth of food, and I have some gold and silver. I would suggest you call them. Go to EMPShield.com. Get yourself an EMPShield.com device. Promo code is Prophecy. Also, I'd recommend you go to josephkitchen.com. Get yourself some food. Brothers and sisters, these are the kind of things that we should be expecting when Jesus has handed us a bill of divorcement. These are the kind of things that we should be expecting if the tribulation has started, as Vicky Parnell and Terry Bennett and Byron Surley, all three of them say. They say the tribulation started, and it's starting to sound to me like maybe they're right. I'm saying, ask Jesus into your heart. Start asking the Lord, what do I need to do to get prepared? What do I need to do to get prepared? And then what he tells you, get after it. CornerstoneAssetMetals.com is where I'll send you if you're thinking about getting gold or silver. I think everybody should have at least a fistful of gold and a fistful of silver, because there could be a time when you pull up to get gasoline and they might not want to take your loaf of bread, but you pull out a gold coin or a silver coin, and you're probably able to get anything you want, even if the credit cards are down, even if the dollars are worthless. CornerstoneAssetMetals.com. CornerstoneAssetMetals.com. Next is, I'll send you to EMPShield.com. If you use the promo word Prophecy, you get a $50 discount. What is that? Well, it looks like this. This is the one that goes into a car, okay? And you put the red wire to the red side of the battery, you put the black wire to the black side of the battery, and the green one attaches to the body of the car. Then you peel it off right back here. Just peel that off, stick it inside of the engine compartment of your car. And the whole point is when the electricity goes off, or when some kind of a suitcase nuke or a nuclear device goes off, this is supposed to be able to stop that device from destroying every computer chip in your car. Because if every computer chip is destroyed in your car these days, you couldn't possibly replace them all. Throw the car away. So, EMPShield.com, promo code Prophecy.
Today, we live in unsettling times. Have you ever wondered what you're going to do when food is no longer on the shelves? I'm Leslie, owner and founder of Joseph's Kitchen, and I want to show you how to make healthy, homemade, whole wheat bread for only a few $100s a year. At Joseph's Kitchen, our goal is to help you live a more healthy and prepared life. Our products are ready for everyday use, but are also designed for long-term storage. Whether you are looking to make healthy, homemade, whole wheat bread, or want to be sure your family is prepared, Joseph's Kitchen is pre-packaged to take all the guesswork out. We personally test each harvest to make sure you are getting the highest quality ingredients.
Are you and your family prepared for what may lie ahead? At Joseph's Kitchen, we are your farm-to-table alternative. Go to josephskitchen.com to order today. And be sure to use the promo code on screen to receive your free gift. Don't get caught unprepared. Go to josephskitchen.com now.